something happening after he gets back here safely in America. But it sounds like the tide is starting to turn as far as President Trump's patience for trying diplomacy. And he's making it very clear Iran is going to be held account anymore. And this is going to be Iran's problem. Big time. Because we know you're directing it. We know you're providing the so-called intelligence. We know you're providing the weapons. And he said the consequences will be dire if this keeps up. So we'll see what all that means. Great report from Aaron. He's going to stand by as we go to David Pine, reporting here from Capitol Hill today for you. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at WVWFoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at WVWFoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at WVWFoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Glad you guys are with us. I'm gonna go back over here. Aaron and I didn't realize we were on live television. We thought we were still just doing audio, so we were just standing here talking and chit-chatting, not looking at the camera, because we had no idea the camera was actually on. So we were looking at our phones, checking emails, or checking the tweet by Donald Trump. I thought it was just audio, and all of a sudden they went to break this, and you guys have been on camera the whole time. No wonder we're acting so nonchalant. So there you go. Dalton said it looked great. Because we weren't even looking at the camera. We're natural. We were just being, we're naturals. Like, you guys have been on camera the whole time. All right, well, there you go. We're going to be joined by David Pine. The guys in the control room back in Memphis, I think, have David Pine. David, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon, great to be with you today.
Thank you. We are up on Capitol Hill. We're in the rotunda of the Cannon building. The Capitol is right behind our camera, literally about 100 yards away, the big, beautiful rotunda. We just got a report from Aaron here, our reporter from Israel, who's here. And of course, he's saying that with this attack by Iran, the Houthis on their airport using ballistic missiles and the tweet by Donald Trump, it sounds like Donald Trump is starting to move toward those who want him to take part in a strike against Iran. Of course, you and I are very concerned about that. You and I are very concerned about cyber attacks, power grid, EMP, terror cells, etc. What do you make of the attacks on the airport in Tel Aviv and the latest statement that seems pretty strong by President Trump, who I guess is going to Israel next week?
Well, I think that the Houthis have demonstrated a capability with Mach 4 plus missiles that are borderline hypersonic to be able to penetrate Israel's renowned missile defense system. And I think that's very significant. The Iranians will also be able to use hypersonic missiles to strike Israel's military bases, two military bases. One, I think, that was close to one of their to their main nuclear reactor. So I think that this kind of pierces the kind of the aura of Israeli invulnerability, although they really do have an impressive missile defense system. There's no question about that. But I do think that with this announcement that Israel is planning to essentially annex the Gaza Strip, they're going to take over and occupy all of the Gaza Strip. They're going to do so in perpetuity, and then they're going to deport all the Palestinians. That meshes very, very closely with Trump's plan, but it might be a solution, however inhumane, for the Gaza problem. But this is going to really inflame Iran and every other Muslim terrorist group in the country, and it's going to make us much less safe. It's going to make Israel much less safe, and it's going to, as you said, it's going to greatly increase the chances of a regional war with with Iran, which Russia has described would be an uncontrolled global escalation that could lead to World War III.
Now, wow, David, you have just put out that during a press conference, President Trump stated, quote, "You're going to be very disappointed when you find out the real number of people that were killed. It's far greater, many times greater, I believe, but far greater than the numbers you're putting out," end quote. He's saying the Russian army and the Russian separatist forces have lost 118,000 troops killed in action since the war began, for a total of 295,000 casualties to date, according to Medusa. Russia has 5 times more people than Ukraine and has millions more reservists it could mobilize to defeat Ukraine. Now, you put that tweet out 14 minutes ago. We just came from the White House. We were there this morning for a couple hours in the press briefing room. I don't know if you heard my opening commentary. It was pretty slow at the White House this morning. People, the press sitting around, some of them in the press room, talking, chit-chatting, literally talked to a few of them. They're talking about, yes, kind of a slow news day, but when it is, you get a break, because when it starts up, there is no break. The Secretary of Agriculture walked up at one point while we were out in front of the West Wing entrance, that famous protocol area there where you saw Benjamin Netanyahu get out of his SUV and greet President Trump and then get back in and leave just a few weeks ago. We were standing right outside that door with the Marine Color Guard there, and there was some other press around, and word went out that the Secretary of Agriculture was going to come over. And sure enough, we watched the Secretary of Agriculture walk down the side walk, or the driveway, from the entrance gate to the West Wing doors up there. And as she walked down that long driveway, more and more press started gathering. And she had a pretty good crowd of press asking questions and doing an impromptu press conference. So it's been kind of a slow news day in some regards. Even some of the reporters here on Capitol Hill, we just visited with one while ago from ABC News, saying, yeah, it's kind of a slow news day for us too. So my question to you would be, when did President Trump hold this press conference? It sounds like it was since we left the White House and came back up here to Capitol Hill.
I was literally just watching it while I was eating lunch about an hour ago. So this was within the last hour that he said this. And it was interesting that he said that, because there was an article published in Responsible Statecraft by a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel with these amazing stats, that quoting the Jamestown Foundation, which is a notoriously pro-Ukraine war foundation of mostly Russian defectors that actually has had some very good information on other topics about Russia during the past 25 plus years that I've followed it. And they're estimating that Ukraine has suffered over 2 million casualties since the war began, including 1.5 million permanent losses. That would be about 750,000 killed in action, and another 750,000 troops that have been severely wounded. So if you put those together, just in terms of the killed in action casualties, that gives Russia an exchange ratio of combat losses 6.3 times to 1. So, we're told by Rubio and other U.S. and political and military leaders that this is a stalemate. The war in Ukraine has no military solution. Ukraine, as you mentioned in my tweet, I posted that Ukraine's population is 5 times lower than Russia's. Russia has 18 to 25 million more reservists it could mobilize potentially in a drawn-out war that escalated to World War III with NATO. But they clearly are bleeding the Ukrainians dry, and the Ukrainian military is on the verge of military collapse, and the only thing that can save it is if Zelensky does a U-turn and accepts President Trump's peace framework or Russian terms to end the war with a diplomatic agreement.
So if there's not a U-turn, where do you see this going? Is NATO going to take and we're going to see Emmanuel Macron and Germany and others take a more aggressive stance toward sitting in troops and getting this thing more aggressively going?
Well, I think what we're going to see is a Russian offensive, a massive Russian offensive that would consist of at least 150,000, perhaps even 250,000 troops that they have massed on the Ukraine's borders for this very purpose. Putin, of course, has been able to do this massive offensive that could force Ukraine to capitulate for at least the past year and a half. But for whatever reason, he's chosen not to. But this, with the end of Russia's, Putin's dream of being able to resolve this with a peaceful agreement, he's clearly opting for the military solution to end the Ukraine in NATO crisis for Russia. And, he stated on April 25th, in a meeting with General Gerasimov, who's the chief of staff of the Russian armed forces, he stated that, the Russian victory in the Kursk and Belgorod regions in repelling Ukrainian incursions there is setting the stage for a total destruction of the Kyiv regime, quote unquote. So what that would entail, it would presumably include another Kyiv offensive, which would be the key to a Russian victory. Because if the Russians, invaded Kyiv again, which they could easily do from Belarus, they wouldn't have to cross the Dnipro River, and that would pressure Ukrainian troops on the left bank or the eastern bank of the Dnipro River to mostly withdraw to the other side, leaving eastern Ukraine, which is about 45% of Ukrainian territory, to fall under Russian control.
I also noticed about an hour ago you were put out a communication regarding the drastic increase of millionaires. It's increased by about 60% in Ukraine. What's the net worth of Zelensky, by the way, since this war started?
Well, from reports that I've seen, Zelensky's net worth, I don't know what it started out as, but he's getting very close to being a billionaire, according to Ukrainian American Representative Victoria Spars, who's been, very adamant in her opposition and criticism of Zelensky as a corrupt dictatorial figure who's destroying Ukraine and refuses to end the war. And is allowing hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers to be killed with no hope of victory.
All right, so it's kind of gone from being kind of a slow news day to now picking up with these latest developments. Do you have any predictions on trends here? What do you think President Trump's going to do, particularly with his trip going to Israel next week? Where do you think President Trump's going with that tweet he put out yesterday? Dire consequences coming from Iran. If you had to guess now, who's going to talk him into what? What side is he going to listen to? Because he's surrounded by war hawks, neocons that want to go to war. Others are saying try diplomacy. If you had to guess now, what do you think the outcome is going to be?
Well, I've been very alarmed by both Pete Hegseth's tweet, in terms of threatening Iran with this, devastation, massive bombing campaign. And now Rubio, of course, has been given unprecedented power that we haven't seen since the Nixon era, in which Nixon appointed Kissinger to both his Secretary of State and his National Security Advisor. So Rubio is now in that position. Trump today stated that while Stephen Miller has he's the front runner for the post of National Security Advisor, the timeline to appoint him is 6 months away. So the reports that Rubio may stay in place in these dual-hatted positions with massive influence on the president, it appears to be accurate. So Rubio, is a super hawk on Iran, of course, and he's pushing. He's saying that Iran, there will be no deal with Iran unless they agree not only to give up all of their enrichment capabilities for uranium, but also that they would have to dismantle their medium to long range ballistic missile program, which apparently caused Iranian negotiators to withdraw from the fourth round of talks late last week. So if in fact that remains the U.S. position, I'm predicting there will be no deal with Iran, and that Trump will come under tremendous pressure to bomb Iranian nuclear sites. But even in the best case scenario, assuming Iran doesn't have nukes, according to Israel, it would only set back their nuclear program by 1 year. And of course, they would be working feverishly to reconstitute their nuclear program if that were to occur. in the hopes of achieving a nuclear capability before the next round of bombing. So we can't just keep bombing Iran every year, is what I'm saying. And it's not just going to be 1 week; it's going to be months.
Hold right there, David, because I don't want to miss a word of what you just said. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. I'd like to take your pulse today, folks. Let's do a poll. Do you think the United States of America should join with Israel and strike Iran? Or do you side with, like me and David and Leo, we're concerned what that will mean for the homeland, for the country? 1-800-347-9829. We'd like to take a poll on that. Phone line's open.
But with Brandon, it's always
Can you imagine
cutting
being out
edge
in
stuff happening in the world, and it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus. You're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent. You're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
And welcome back. Glad you are with us. Well, right before we went to that break, it started downpouring sheets here in the nation's capital. Man alive. Can you imagine being out in that today, guys? We would not be looking like we do right now. Like I said earlier, we would be look like drowned rats. It is pouring down out there. So again, keep praying that we keep dodging these torrential downpours like we are, because you spend a lot of time walking in D.C. from place to place and setting up and getting ready. That's for sure. So we're glad you're with us, though. David, we're going to go to our phone calls here, and let's get a poll. Let's take a poll of our people. What do they think? And what are their concerns in regards to the U.S. joining Israel and striking Iran? Or do you think that's something? I mean, Aaron obviously is in Israel, and he's thinking, we need help. We'd like to deal with this. This is a tough neighborhood we live in. So we totally get Aaron's perspective, and we understand the folks on the ground in Israel. And he understands our position that, hey, when your country goes and does this, you're inviting things to happen inside your own homeland. So what are your thoughts on this, folks? 1-800-347-9829. If you guys want to text me, who's on Dalton can text me. I'll take calls here. 1-800-347-9829. Again, 1-800-347-9829. David, what are your thoughts here on what I'm proposing in regards to the American people? Do you think the American people understand this issue enough to even make a decision? I know this audience does, because they've been listening to you and me and Leo and others. But does the average American understand this topic enough to say yes or no in regards to a joint strike on Iran between America and Israel?
I don't think they do, because, as Peter Price stated in a number of articles, a whole series of articles, along with former CIA Director James Woolsey, beginning, I think, in 2012 or 2015, Iran likely has nuclear weapons. Iran's had a ICBM program since 2005. They have hardened underground silos with mobile long-range missiles, ballistic missiles, at least MRBMs and IRBMs. We haven't seen any direct evidence they have ICBMs, but they clearly have ICBM capability in terms of technology, because they've had space launch rockets since 2020 that have launched a number of satellites, including what ISS and Tommy Waller, former Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army or U.S. Marines, retired, is saying are likely super EMP satellites that Iran has deployed above the U.S. I think it's the NOR-2 and NOR-3 satellites. And then they have, a big cyber capability as well. So they have, I don't assess that they would ever attack us directly with nuclear impacts on U.S. soil. but certainly a super EMP attack or a massive cyber attack that they could potentially have some kind of plausible deniability, given that, of course, we have North Korea, Russia, and China that each have those capabilities to destroy the U.S. I think it'd be very difficult for the U.S. to ascertain who was responsible, certainly for a super EMP attack, given that we have so many enemies that have those weapons orbiting overhead. Cyber attack, would probably be much easier or somewhat easier to find out. But those are all possibilities that could result in tens of millions of U.S. dead, civilians killed over time, starving in place as our country could be collapsed by Iran. So, if it stays conventional, I think the fight could last probably months, not 1 week, a bombing campaign as U.S. military planners are planning for. But Secretary Rubio has stated, he stated that a war with Iran would be much more complicated and have much greater risks than any recent U.S. war in its history, over the last 20 to 30 years. So I think Rubio, he does have a clear understanding of the threat, at least from the conventional standpoint, but his rhetoric would indicate otherwise.
Let's go to Shannon, line 1 from Wisconsin. Shannon, what are your thoughts on this and future events?
Hey, brother from another mother. I got an issue looking ahead, connecting the dots. We have the soccer championship coming. We have the Olympics coming. And we're also celebrating our 250th anniversary, of the country. Any one of these, and I'm going to say maybe on the anniversary itself, you're going to have all the military, whatever, congregated in one area for the most part. We might have our October 7th on one of those. And it could be tied into, some of these, our talks about going after Iran.
Let me ask you, David, what Shannon says here. Soft targets. You got a lot of parades coming up with the 250th anniversary, a lot of celebrations. The Olympics, where's the Olympics going to be? I can't even remember where it's going to be. Maybe, David, you remember. But all the things he mentions there, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's absolutely right to be concerned because the more we involve ourselves and be more aggressive against Iran and support Israel in terms of occupying all of Gaza with no ceasefire in sight, the greater we expose ourselves to Islamic terror strikes on our own homeland. And I think it's an absolute contradiction to U.S. national security interests to do so. Of course, I've been a lifetime supporter of Israel. I just happen to differ with Netanyahu on his campaign to bomb and starve the Gazans. I think Trump's ceasefire plan was outstanding. I think if we were to implement that, we could come to an acceptable solution that ensured Israeli security, but more importantly, U.S. security. So I think that this whole Gaza invasion, has created a lot of, somewhat unintended or unforeseen consequences in terms of, the widening potential for a Middle Eastern war with Iran, and again, potential terror strikes on the U.S. homeland that could materialize within months.
Let's go to Jim, line 4. Jim in Wisconsin. Jim, thank you for calling in, Jim.
Yes, gentlemen.
Hi, Jim.
Piggyback on the previous gentleman's comment. We have our own set of problems here at home, and I just saw another video of a imam in New York City talking about they're gonna invade every home. Islam is the only one true religion, and places like New York City are quickly becoming our Gaza, and also the terrorist groups, the sleeper cell groups in our country. What's becoming of them? I never hear anything about anybody rooting those out. So.
Well, thank you, Jim. David, as we get ready to wrap here, the music's going to go. You can kind of tell that between you, me, Leo, and others, we've kind of primed this audience to understand that this is not a situation to be taken lightly. There could be serious consequences for going in on this. Closing comment as the music plays, David?
Yeah, I think that all of our viewers or your viewers should
well, that's
contact
it. I gotta go.
This has been Worldview
Take care,
Radio.
guys. All right, we're back with WROS. David, don't go anywhere. We're back with WROS in Jacksonville and Worldview Tube. David, are you back with me?
Yes, I'm still here.
Go ahead and pick up. I'm sorry, the music cut us off. Computer took it away. Go ahead and say what you're saying, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's important that your viewers contact members of Congress, elected U.S. leaders to reinforce their opposition to forever wars. I mean, all of these wars are being pursued or threatened by the Trump administration in contravention to what President Trump promised. He was elected.
By the way, you saw the tough tweet by Marjorie Taylor Greene the other night, right?
Yeah, I love Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I couldn't agree with her more. I think that I just feel like the Israeli lobby is pushing us into a war that's going to pose an existential threat to the American people. And again, as a lifetime supporter of Israel, I don't have a problem with U.S. supporting Israel. My problem is getting into these these forever wars, especially against a nuclear power like Iran, which could have very severe blowback potential against the United States.
Absolutely. David, thank you for being with us. dpyne.substack.com, dpyne.substack.com, and you can follow him on X as well. David, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brandon. Always a pleasure. Take care.
David Pyne checking in as we're here on Capitol Hill. We're going to wrap a little earlier today so that we can get moved and set up for our interviews we got with Ron Johnson at 4 o'clock, Congressman Glenn Grothman. So we're going to cut off a little early here to message there to the control room guys in Memphis to let them know we're going to go out a little early right now. Thank you to all of you watching. We have a lot of footage tonight to show you on Brandon House Live on worldviewtube.com tonight, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. Thanks for watching. Take care. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world, and it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh,